Welcome to At Scale, the tnAchieves podcast. I'm Chrissy D'Alejandro, tnAchieves President and CEO. tnAchieves seeks to be humble but ambitious, disruptive yet intentional, and student-focused while also data-driven. We believe our mission is simple: enhance post-secondary opportunities and outcomes by providing holistic student supports rooted in community and accountability at scale. But the work is much more complex. Since 2008, we've broken some things in a great way. We've built many things, and we've created something that stems from the idea that a college credential can be a powerful equalizer. From helping individual students navigate the complexities of college to shaping the way Tennessee thinks about preparing and educating tomorrow's workforce, this podcast explores how tnAchieves intersects with partners across our state and throughout the country. Let's dig in with state and national thought partners, business and industry leaders, college and K-12 representatives, and all the others in between that inform, inspire, and interconnect with tnAchieves work. Here we go. Welcome back to the At Scale podcast. I'm Chrissy D'Alejandro, as always, joined by my co-host, Ben Sterling. Ben, it's a gorgeous day outside. Excited for another really exciting sort of a left turn on the guests for us, if you will.
Yeah, I'm excited to change gears just a little bit. I think bringing somebody in from a business perspective that really represents one of the most exciting partnerships that we've had at tnAchieves in our 17 years. So I think there's a lot to unpack here from our partnership standpoint, but also really thinking through how this particular partner can bring a lot of resources and information to our volunteers, our business partners, and students to really enhance their outcomes. So, as always, I will allow Chrissy to make the formal introduction. But yes, I would. We talked yesterday about how we're going to stop trying to use the word excited.
And I jumped right into it. I don't know if you heard me.
I did too. And so I was thinking about my grandfather this morning, and he likes to use the word tickled. So I'm tickled for today's episode.
It's so good. My grandmother used to use that word too. So we're 1,000 years old this morning on the At Scale podcast. Well, I'm super excited, number one, to talk about this partnership that really felt like such a win for our students, such a win for us, but also honestly to dig in as we think about our goal of building Tennessee's future workforce. Like, what better guest than to talk about the importance of financial planning and financial literacy and how this really interconnects with creating that economic independence that we really want for all of our students. I feel like education and economic independence are best friends, right? They're symbiotic in many ways. So we're excited to welcome Brian Walsh from SoFi. He serves as the head of advice and planning, leading financial planning and digital advice and financial education. It's a big job. But my favorite thing, Brian, when I was preparing for this is that you were referred to, or you'll have to clear this up, but Dr. Money. So that's what you'll be referred to throughout the rest of the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. The Dr. Money thing came about because I'm a bit of a nerd. I got my PhD in personal finance. And when that happened, SoFi's brand and marketing team were like, hey, that's a pretty cool idea. We're going to call you Dr. Money. And it was the most embarrassing thing ever. But you know what? Whatever helps people, tune in and learn about money. Side note, my friends call me Dr. Money when they want to make fun of me around town.
Of course they do.
Because they know that it's, I don't know, it's a self-conscious thing. I just like personal finances.
You should get like a t-shirt. I mean, I would wear this with confidence. Dr. Money, that's a big title.
Well, I mean, I would, but the day actually after I defended my dissertation, my wife was all excited. I think my kids were like 5 and 7 or 4 and 6 at the time. And they were like, my wife was like, hey, Dad is now a doctor. And my son's like, oh, okay, so I don't have to go to the doctor to get checkups anymore. Like, Dad could just do that. And she's like, no, he can't do that. And then he was like, well, what if I get hurt around the house or anything like that? And like, no, I can't help you. And he's like, so you're not a real doctor. And I'm like, oh man, ego check right there from like a sixth
Right
grade.
out
The
the
kids
gate.
will do it to you, right? Every time. It's just like a sucker punch.
Yeah.
I love that so much. Tell me, I'm just curious, Brian, like when you were, I don't know, 8, 10, 15 years old, where you're like, one day my goal is to get a PhD in personal finance. Like, how do you get there?
That definitely was not my thought at 8 or 10 or gosh, even 18 years old. I mean, I grew up in like a normal, probably lower middle class family where, to be honest with you, like we never talked about money as a family unless it was like in the context of like arguments or drama or issues. So really kind of just fell into it along the way. Like when I went to college, I filled out the FAFSA for myself. My parents didn't know how to do it. So I just kind of got interested in college. And then after college, I made about every financial mistake that someone can make, even though I majored in finance. And I really appreciated that like there's like habits and the emotional side of personal finances and why people do things is way more important than knowing like what to do. And I'm like, if I did this, like we really need to kind of change how we're talking about, people managing money. So was not planned, just kind of fell into it. And I just think it's a really interesting topic.
Oh, I love that. Can you tease that out a little bit? So you're saying there's some like psychology here, right, at play?
Yeah. So like I'll use myself as an example. Like I didn't learn this until I was like in my mid 20s. So right after I graduated college, I finally had like, I don't know, a paycheck so I could buy the things that I never could buy. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. So I just bought tons of things like nice car, like clothes, going out and racking up credit card debt. And then it got to a point where I'm like, oh, this is a problem. And I was like, why did this happen? And I started reading about how people's like relationship and their approach with money is developed when they're a kid
Mm.
and they don't even know it. And that carries forward with how like they make decisions. Well, mine was I avoid thinking about money, which is ironic as a financial planner, because of how I grew up, like not talking about money, arguing about money. I just like associated money with bad things until I thought through that and said like, okay, I need to like focus on little habits. I need to automate things. I need to put my wife in charge of our day-to-day finances. Until I did that, my own personal finances were an absolute disaster. So it was kind of like learning about the emotional side of money just by necessity. So I didn't go like bankrupt, and didn't keep, managing my money in a bad way.
No, I love that. And I think, as it pertains to the work that we do in Tennessee, specifically when you talk about economically disadvantaged students. So I come from a very low income background. I understand the psychology of money. I think about my husband did not come from it, and how we think about money specifically is so, I mean, it's like we're not even in the same book, let alone on the same page, 20 years into our relationship. But I think about students that come from similar backgrounds to me, and when they get that excess Pell Grant money or they take out a loan, and then suddenly there's this like large sum of dollars in their checking account. And I think it's really challenging for students to think about it, students, and I mean, I think this is true for many, not simply the students we serve. It's like that immediate rush. You think about today opposed to thinking about like a year from now. I need to make sure that I have money for groceries or for rent or whatever. Like this all resonates with me just based on the work we do.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, 100%. Like if you don't learn about it growing up, which I didn't, then it's kind of like you go out in the world and it's like, okay, go ahead and fly, little bird. And okay, you have access to student loans, you have access to credit cards. You are just like, it's like drinking from a fire hose with all these different things that you don't know how to, use or take advantage of. Which is why I kind of got into the education side of things. I started teaching personal finance 101 to college students. I built a course on Coursera because like it just really bothered me. And I guess I have that weird personality where it's like, if something bothers me, I'm like, okay, what can we actually do about it rather than just complaining about it? Yeah. So that's kind of, I got into the education piece just because I'm like, we're not teaching this stuff to kids but we expect them to make good decisions. Like that is not how the world is going to work.
Yeah, I find it really interesting how SoFi, and I'm going to ask you how you got to SoFi now. I consume a lot of media, and SoFi seems to be kind of everywhere. And the message you're getting from SoFi is so different from what you're getting from a lot of other institutions, where it's really education focused. It's really focused on this component that you're really talking about, this emotional side of it, habit side of it, as opposed to this sort of just like, pragmatic approach. So, how did you end up at SoFi? What attracted you to that? And like, talk a little bit about that philosophy.
I will say it's a strong brand though, because when
Yep.
SoFi approached us about the partnership, the really generous partnership, I was sitting around the dinner table that night and I was like, I had such an interesting call today. And I was like, have you guys ever heard of, I was actually talking to my husband and I was like, have you heard of SoFi? And he goes, why does that ring a bell? And then my 15-year-old was like, SoFi Stadium. So, right, for whatever it is, the 15-year-old knew.
Yeah, I could do a whole podcast today just on the marketing approach of SoFi. We don't have to go there, but I could do a whole hour on that because you guys have killed that for sure.
I mean, our marketing team is amazing. My kids still think it's cool, especially my daughter. She watched like the Taylor Swift movie or whatever documentary that she was at SoFi Stadium, and now my daughter thinks I know Taylor Swift, and I didn't tell her I don't. I didn't tell her I did. I just left it like vague. But yeah, I got to SoFi. So around the time that we had our first kid, I wanted to refinance my student loans because like I paid my way through undergrad, grad, and my PhD program. So I had student loans. My wife had student loans, and I refinanced my student loans with SoFi. And I had no clue who they were. It was a great experience, and it was kind of just left at that. And then right after my son was born, I just kind of started thinking like, okay, like I've worked in traditional finance. They do great things for people who are in their 60s, 70s, who have a lot of money. But like, that's just not me. It's not what I'm interested in. It's not what I think really matters. Ironically, SoFi came reaching out about, taking over their financial planning team. And I guess like the rest is history because like the mission of SoFi really resonated with me. And I think my priorities changed when I had kids, where I was like, okay, if I'm going to take a bunch of time away from my kids to work, which I have to do, I at least want it to be something where I'm like, I believe in what we're doing, where I feel good at the end of the day. And the education, the kind of advice first type approach that SoFi has had for my 7 years here really resonated because you can offer the best financial products in the world. But if you're not helping people make the right decisions, they're never going to reach financial independence. They're never going to get their money right. And it's just like this hamster wheel type of thing. So it just aligned with what I wanted to do and just the point I was in my life. And it worked out great, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that like so aligns with our philosophy too here, Brian, because I don't know how much you know about the education work that we do in Tennessee, but when we were launching Tennessee Promise, providing students the opportunity to attend community, technical, and some four-year institutions tuition free, the money is important, right? Like I always say, it's the carrot that brings students and families to us. But if you don't have the knowledge or the background to navigate higher ed, like money's great, but like I don't know how to get there. And I think it's a similar philosophy and how we think about things is money's foundational, but in order to get where you want to go, there's a lot of components of support along the way. And I think SoFi does such a great job there. Talk more about like what your team leads and how that approach works from your perspective.
Yeah. So one of my roles is to lead our financial planning team, which we offer all of our members complimentary access to financial planners. So you got a question, it could be as simple as, okay, how much should I be saving for this goal? All the way to as complicated as like, hey, I have 5 things going on. I got kids, I got debt, I got to save for retirement, and everything in between. And really, we work through and we kind of take a step back and we say, okay, here's what you're doing. Here's what you want to accomplish down the road. Here's a simple way to get there. Just a step-by-step approach, because breaking it down is something that really kind of makes it easier and attainable for people. So we do that. I also lead our automated investing platform, which basically you go online and you say, here's what I want to do with my money. Here's how I feel related to investments, and it automatically invests it for you. And it's professionally managed. It's on an ongoing basis. I lead that. And then I also do, education type stuff. And I think all of those are really, really important because some people want to just read an article or watch a webinar. They know what they want to learn about. They want to dive into that, and that's kind of like on their own. Some people just want to kind of put it off and say, you know what? I don't even want to think about investing. I have no clue what to do. Cool, do it for me. And then some people want to have like a deeper conversation where it's like, here's all the things that have going on in my life. I have no clue what to do. Talk me through it. So like those are really kind of like the three pillars that I interact with and how we serve our members in those areas.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's so great to give options. If you were to take those three pillars and you were thinking, okay, for somebody who wants to invest, if you're a student who's just graduated and entered the workforce and knows nothing about it, what do you think some great advice would be for someone in that space, like that came from backgrounds like we did?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is to make investing a habit as early as possible. Because when it comes to investing, time can either be your best friend or your worst enemy. If you start early, even small amounts, like some people think, oh, I have to have X amount to start investing. That's not true. You can start with $1. You can start with $50. It doesn't matter. And if you start early and you make it a habit, then you get your money growing, and then you get growth on top of growth, and you're in a really good position down the road. Whereas on the flip side, if you wait too long, then time becomes your enemy because you don't get compounded growth working for you, and you have to save a lot of money, which probably isn't realistic for very many people. So it's just making it a habit rather than focusing on what do I invest in, all this stuff. Like you can use automated investing solutions, you could use ETFs, whatever it may be. That doesn't matter. Making it a habit is what really matters.
Yeah, I think for a lot of our students, even just the idea of investing, I think is pretty intimidating to them.
So scary. Yeah.
And just the idea of money in general for a lot of our students is complicated. And we've kind of already talked about that. But what I really appreciated about SoFi coming to us is you guys had this goal, and it's through a partnership with Kelsey Ballerini, which my wife thinks is so cool. But it's this idea, and she seems very vulnerable in her approach to this as well. And that when she was a young person, she struggled with this same challenge, and that you guys saw an opportunity in Tennessee to educate young people about this exact topic. And you approached us because we had a particular reach across the state at scale, as the podcast is aptly named. But can you talk a little bit about why tnAchieves was the partner that you guys chose? I haven't actually heard that from anyone at SoFi yet to this point anyway, so I would really appreciate just some insight behind that initial idea of coming to Tennessee. Why Tennessee? Why now? That kind of thing.
Yeah, I think the big thing is education is so important, and people learning about getting their money right at younger ages, or even college, or even after, is absolutely critical. Like if you don't know what you're doing related to managing your money, chances are you're not going to make the right decisions. And like, yeah, you could approach it on one end where it's like, oh, hey, I personally think that personal finance should be a required class for everyone all 4 years of high school. I guess the odds of that actually happening across all 50 states are pretty darn low. Like, not to get like political, but like it just like it ends up being a little bit of a mess. Versus if you work directly with organizations that you don't have to go through kind of those layers of bureaucracy, that have the boots on the ground, that can have the impact, and you can do it a lot quicker, then you get to have an impact quicker. Like I think our overall philosophy at SoFi, like one of our core values is to learn, iterate, innovate. And it's the idea that like it doesn't need to be the perfect solution. Like I want personal finance taught at every school. That's perfect. But you can make progress you could find out, okay, what works, what doesn't. How do we then grow it from there? How do we make an impact from there rather than just waiting for this ideal state like personal finance all across the board, all K through 12?
It makes sense to me, and it resonates with us. Well, there's one thing that I can really tell from SoFi is that you don't shy away from just trying something. There's so much just happening quickly with SoFi, and same thing for tnAchieves. I feel like this partnership was just really a great one because of that. We're not afraid to sort of jump in quick and try to figure something out. Neither are you guys. I mean, all of this stuff happens really quickly, and which was so exciting for us, especially in the space that we work in. Things don't often happen very quickly. So for us, it was like SoFi approached us, and I feel like, Chrissy, we had something ready to go in like just a couple of weeks, it seemed, you know.
Yeah, I remember at some point Matt was like, hey, Chrissy, I'm really impressed at the pace at which you work. And I was like, well, we're impressed at the pace at which you work, just sort of, we move quickly here, especially when the partnership feels right. Brian, what strikes me, I think what's really interesting, I would love if you could give your insight here. It does feel like, every day I feel like I wake up to a Harvard Business Review article that talks about AI now. I mean, it's just everywhere. And I was at a conference or at a convening in Arizona a couple of months ago, and there was a whole piece about education and AI. My guess is that your field is also being bombarded with sort of the happy, great pieces of AI and then the not so great pieces of AI. Does feel to me, though, that AI could help in lessening this intimidation factor around investing. Do you think that's true?
100%. I think it's a tremendous opportunity for the financial industry to take advantage of and reach more people when they need it. It might sound silly, but I kind of equate it to social media in a way. I think social media over in podcasts and all the social media platforms, like they've really done a great job of, especially like the last 4 or 5 years, of taking topics like money that people didn't want to talk about. They didn't want to learn about the old fashioned way where I'm going to talk to them for an hour, sitting through a webinar. And they reach these people to get them to start thinking about it when they needed it. Same thing with AI. I think the idea with, that everyone is going to learn everything about personal finances so they can make the exact right decision at the exact right time. Like that's unrealistic. But everyone has a phone in their hand. Like it's almost a bad thing. I feel like I have my phone with me nonstop. Mm-hmm. And if you can then integrate just-in-time advice where it just uses what it like, let's say the SoFi app uses what it knows about you to say, hey, you should think about doing this. You should think about doing that. And we do that in our app right now. And it provides that kind of just-in-time insight. So that way you're there when you need it and when the person needs it. And I think the more kind of productive that gets and the more that scales, I think it's really going to break down a lot of barriers that have prevented people from getting good financial information across the country.
Well, and I would think that if done well, then someone's not so intimidated about asking the question, right? Like you're not asking a person who may, have some predisposed judgment around like, why is that? That's a silly question or whatever, right? I mean, we find that all the time in higher ed that students are like, oh, I don't want to ask that because I feel like I should already know the answer to it. Feels like AI can be helpful in sort of eliminating that, gosh, this is an embarrassing thing for me to sort of jumpstart my investment conversation. It feels like AI is a good entry point at the very least.
Yeah, definitely. It could serve in that area. I mean, random tangent. I also at SoFi, I lead our ETF business, which is we have funds that we offer, and we filed to launch a new one, and it's focused on agentic AI, and I didn't know what to name it, so I'm like, butt my head against the wall. I was embarrassed to ask other people, so I go and chat GPT. I'm like, what should we call an agentic AI ETF? And to your point, like I was willing to go in there to start kick off that process where I wasn't willing to go talk to another person. It was just ironic that I was using AI to name an AI ETF. But I think that's a great point because whether it's using AI, whether it's just articles, whether it's webinars, whether it's social media videos where people can just throw a comment on there with a question, like whatever it may be, like when people can get their questions answered, that's the most important thing.
I also feel like there's a strong effort from SoFi to try to destigmatize this conversation in a way that hasn't really been done before, by leveraging high profile people who from my perspective lived that life and have personal experience to share, all in this effort to sort of destigmatize this conversation and make this conversation around money more comfortable, more accessible. And then when you have an organization that's as large as SoFi, Chrissy grew up in a small town. I live in one now. Conversations about money when it's like a local person can feel very intimidating. But I think to your point, Chrissy, being able to have this conversation with somebody that doesn't feel so personal, but if you have the right people at the table, then there's this trustworthiness that goes along with that instills the confidence that this young people particularly will ask those questions. Am I on the right track there? It feels like maybe that's where like the marketing is coming from, I'm assuming.
Yeah, for sure. And I live in a small town. Like our high school still has tractor day once a year at our high school, which is awesome. Like
Same.
I love small towns. And yeah, I think it's important to see people being vulnerable about money, because whether it's with yourself or especially in a relationship, like having these conversations is really, really important. Just talking through the issues. And we've done that through celebrities talking about money. We've done it through, people at our company talking about money. And like, I'll get asked, like I sit down and I'll talk to people and they're going through their personal finances. Like, yeah, this is a mess. I don't even want to tell you. And I'm like, honestly, I doubt there is a financial mistake that you've made that I also have not made. And it's the same thing with the people on our financial planning team. They've all kind of learned the hard way and worked through it. So that's where people should not be embarrassed talking about it, because whether it's celebrities we have talking through it or just our financial planners, the fact that I think almost every single one I know for a fact has made plenty of mistakes in their personal finances. They learn from it and it helps them relate to people better in guiding them through it. It's not like our team or even myself is like this perfect person that is going to judge people or made all these great financial decisions. It's like anything else in life. You make mistakes, you learn, and you develop new habits, and then you keep on making mistakes and you keep on learning, and it's just an ongoing cycle.
I love that. So I think just that statement alone, like people hearing that like everybody, everybody's made financial mistakes. Like we're human, it's common, it's what happens. Like no matter what you've done, there is a path forward, right? I mean, I think about that when I talk to our students. I always tell them, like, everybody fails their first math test in college, right? Like, probably no one's told you that, but it's not a reason to walk away from college. Like, everybody does it. Yeah, like you got to get that sucker punch, out, and then you're like, okay, I'll build from here. And I think similar philosophy, and I think that's just such an important message that we need to spread like far and wide. Brian, we like to talk about magic wands here a lot. Like we're big dreamers, we're doers, but we're also big dreamers. The innovation piece of this is so huge for us. So, if you had a magic wand and you could I love the message, so I'm hoping we're moving in this direction. But if you had a magic wand and you could say, like, listen, this is the best first step or the best third step, even as you think about economic independence, which is just a big word. What do you think you would offer there?
I would say the best first step is to truly understand and automate your finances. I think a lot of times we look at technology as something that's a bad thing when it comes to finances, because social media makes it easier to spend money. My Amazon app makes it a lot easier to spend money, where I truly download it off my phone every now and then. But there's also really good things about technology. Like you can go on there and through SoFi's app, we have Relay, and it'll show you everything that you owe and spend from the palm of your hand, and then just automate everything you need to do. You make a good decision once and you reap the rewards on a go forward basis. The idea that you're going to grit your way through making a good decision, whether it's saving money, paying down debt, investing, like unless you have like the willpower of like a monk, like you're not going to do it every single month.
Yeah.
You need to automate, otherwise you're not going to succeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That consistency is so huge, I think.
Before we let you go, I would love for you to plug about the Rising Stars program. So the partnership between tnAchieves and SoFi and Kelsey Ballerini was the Rising Stars program. And so for our listeners, this is an opportunity, I think, for you to share what you want them to know about that partnership and maybe some of the details about what opportunities are there for students if they're working with some of our students.
Yeah, I think it's something I'm really excited about. And granted, I may be a little bit biased because I worked on some of the curriculum for it, but just the opportunity to learn in different ways, whether it be through webinars or whether it be through a guide, the basic things that people are going to be facing at this period of their life. And not every single thing is going to apply to every single person. It's taking one thing that's saying, hey, I'm working on saving for something. I'm working on spending my money a little bit differently, or I got to take on debt. So I need to learn a little bit more about debt. Taking that one thing and saying, okay, what did I learn? And then how can I apply that to my life as quickly as possible? Because that's what I love about doing things like this, is because when you learn about something with, related to personal finances, if you don't use it, you lose it. So like the idea of like, I'm going to pick that one thing and I'm going to apply it really quickly. That's how you kind of really, really ingrain really healthy financial habits. And I think that's what I'm most excited about, is just seeing what one thing people do, how they learn about it, and hopefully how it changes their lives. And if there's things that people wanted to learn about but didn't learn about, I also am excited to hear about that too, because as we talked about earlier, that's a way to, iterate and make things better. So I think that's going to be a really powerful thing for people. And I'm excited to see, how that works.
Me too. I think this is a really, we're just at the beginning stages of what is going to be a long time partnership with tnAchieves and SoFi. So really looking forward to seeing how our students benefit from this curriculum, this partnership. And we could not be more grateful for SoFi's generosity and willingness to dig in with us and try. We like to say we try a lot of things and keep what works. And that's one of the things that we're trying, and we're really excited about it.
I'm going to take so much away from this conversation, Brian, but mostly the most immediate thing is that I'm going to tell my husband, who is an Amazon darling, that he needs to remove the app from his phone. Dr. Money has spoken, and this is what we're doing now.
I'll text him too for you.
Let him know. Please let him know.
I really have done that. And I think everyone has different triggers. Like we talked about, like no one's perfect. Yeah. My trigger is I go on Amazon to buy like paper towels or toilet paper, or something that we need. And then I start scrolling and it's just so easy. Yeah. I love it. But then I review my spending with my wife and I'm like, okay, that's not what we should be spending. We're buying a lot of things that we don't need. And I eventually just I took it off my phone. My wife has it on her phone. She has way more self-control than me. So if we need the toilet paper, the paper towels, I'm just like, hey, Mel, we need to get this. But I won't ask her for the thing that I don't need. So it's a good example of like, okay, figure out what your trigger is. Everyone has them. Mm-hmm. And then figure out a system. It's kind of like the idea of, when I try to eat right, I don't have like burritos in my fridge and like Oreo cookies in my pantry, because I know I'm going to cave and I'm going to end up eating those things. It's the same thing with like financial triggers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it all goes back to that psychology. It's like full circle, right? Like the psychology of, I'm telling you, the amount of things that come to my house that we 100% don't need is unreal. So this has been so great, Brian. Thank you so much for time and expertise. We're so thankful.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of At Scale, the tnAchieves podcast. Each conversation is a step toward a deeper understanding of how we can collectively expand opportunity and increase post-secondary access and success for all students in Tennessee. To continue following this work, be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Subscribing ensures you never miss an episode, and your rating or review helps others discover the stories and insights that we'll share. Together, we're not only supporting students,
we're building Tennessee's future workforce. Thank you for listening.